Yeah, the sort of nonsense that's coming out of UKIP corners, that we should stop talking the country down, which generally involves reporting stuff that is true with regard to Brexit. So what does it mean? And I'm not quite ready yet, I don't think, to close my eyes and put my fingers in my ears. But let's pretend I am. I mean, what advice could you give to someone who remains increasingly convinced that the evidence is now mounting on an almost unbelievable scale, that we are at the very best looking at a long period of uncertainty and decline, at the end of which maybe, we'll all get our unicorn delivered, but at this point in time you'd struggle to find anybody to come forward and give you a long list of reasons to be cheerful. We discovered that last week. So instead of that, what does stop talking the country down mean? Damien Green, what is his job title now? Is he sort of cabinet secretary or something like that? He's got a big job. Very much a Remain voter, but he wrote a piece in the Telegraph at the weekend in which he explained why it was very important for everybody to get behind a project that he believes to be bad for Britain. That seems to me to be emblematic of pretty much everything at the moment. Senior cabinet minister writing an article in a newspaper owned by two reclusive brothers who've got their own Channel Island, explaining why the rest of us should get behind a project that they like, but most of us don't. On the grounds that if you don't get behind it, it might not go very well. The idea that David Davis turns on his radio at 10 o'clock in the morning and hears me reading out facts regarding the European Union negotiating position and providing evidence regarding responses everywhere from Berlin to Birmingham, and goes, oh my God, our negotiating position has just been summarily weakened. I mean, that's just funny, right? And yet relatively serious people, grown-up people, intelligent people keep saying it. Stop talking the country down. As if facts and news and evidence it changes the negotiating position. Let's start with that, because, maybe it does. The whole general election was fought upon the principle that if Theresa May had a bigger majority, she'd have a stronger hand in those negotiations. Secretary of State and Minister for the Cabinet Office, to give Mr. Green his full title. But the argument was, the bigger the majority, the stronger the hand in negotiations. And I sort of understood that at the time. Now, of course, they all swear blind that the precise opposite is true, that the election result has had no impact whatsoever upon our negotiating position. But if you go back to before the ballot, it made some sort of sense in that if you perceive them as an enemy, this, I think, is the problem, isn't it, for Remainers or whatever you want to call them. Sensible, perhaps, is a good phrase. But the real problem is if you don't see them as the enemy. So even now, during negotiations, you sort of go, well, maybe we could, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. Hey, Michelle, that's all right, isn't it? Mike, can I call you Mike? Mickey? What do your mates call you? What do your amis call you? Mickey, Monsieur Bonnier. Look, here's the deal. We all want to come out of this as unscathed as possible. If I was selling you a house and we could exchange by Friday, you can keep the curtains. That kind of thing. You remember the curtains? You said you liked them when you're shown around. So if we can exchange by Friday, you can keep the curtains. That's how you do it. And yet we perceive them as an enemy. And proof of what a terrible enemy they are is how hard they're working to protect the interests of their members. And all the people that told us that they never protect the interests of their members are now absolutely furious at all the evidence mounting up that they protect the interests of their members. I can't believe the EU negotiating team. Do you know what they're doing? There's no earthly way that they're going to give us anything that's bad for them. It's madness. It's almost as if they're protecting the interests of their members. You see relatively sensible people, or at least people you used to think were sensible, complaining about them as if it's a sort of football game instead of a desperate and increasingly forlorn attempt to knit something together that doesn't do unnecessary damage to both parties.
You didn't frankly have the balls to put country before party.